Welcome everybody. We're going to just kick things off for everybody here in person and online. So welcome everybody online to Admitted Student Weekend. And without further ado, I will introduce Veera. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Thank you all. So good to see you all. Now, I want to start off first by actually acknowledging our team that's put together a fantastic event here. So the clap should be reserved for Nicole, Kyle, Mandy, Dave, and Fatma, and the entire team who've put a stellar event together. And you will learn a lot. So please, now. So you have a packed schedule today. Now, there's a lot going on, but let me tell you first off, this is my first year as a chair of the department, and this was one of the events, I was so looking forward to. It's one of my favorite events of the year to participate as a faculty, but now as a chair, especially to see a new cohort. So first of all, welcome everyone from wherever you're coming, and all the folks who are watching online at this well. A lot of work went into putting together this event and coming to this, and two admissions chairs are also here, some admissions committee members, and So I'll kick off things. I'll tell you a little bit about the department and just the university in general. Then you'll hear about the program, the curriculum, and some specific things. And we have a lot of our current students here who are facilitating some of the outside of classroom and some Q&A panels, and you'll meet some of my esteemed colleagues, learn more about the research that's happening here, and as well as some of the alumni, and after that we'll close early afternoon, and then you'll get to see our department and other areas of the campus as well. So. Right. So you probably all know this and already wrote this in your statements of purpose and your letters now, but just to contextualize this, like, what do we actually do now? So if you were like me, I never knew what biostatistics was. Even in my undergrad, I sort of fell backwards into it, But having been, I got my PhD ages ago, 20 years ago, and it's morphed a little, but it's still, like, the core still remains the same to some degree. Is the application of statistical methods, I would say rigorous and principled statistical methods, to biological health related data, and that's what the bio in the biostatistics, contextualizes the statistics here. Of course, there is a mile marker that we always aim for, which is to improve human health and health in general, and also reduce illness, and that's right, left, and center of all the activities, directly or indirectly, that we do in the department. More specifically, we are involved in, there are various flavors of statistics, and now health data or data science, in particular. So what sets us apart is, just the way we approach things and what skill sets we aim to develop. Not just as faculty, but also imbibing the students through our courses and our research, hitting on the design of studies, evaluating the effectiveness and contribute, in an impactful manner. And as I said, in the heart of this is advancing, biomedical knowledge, as well as, and we are situated in a school of public health, so that remains important, sort of context here. So recently we started a new program, and our first cohort will actually graduate this summer, and actually this semester. And this was a course in health data science. I know some of you here are part of that program or admitted to that program. So and that's keeps our core intact, but it tags on a little bit more types of courses, and you'll hear more of that in detail from my colleagues here. That includes tags on mostly from a computing and large scale health data, and that's a little bit of a more of an added core emphasis there. The big data analytics and computing skills, right? So what do we do? I've sort of already hit upon this. At a more specific level. Design, analysis, and computations, and I think if I had to summarize this in a bottom line is connecting the right data to the right methods and make the right interpretations. And that's pretty much summarizes our field. And it's a very nice intersection. I was a math major myself, and I liked computing, so it was a nice intersection of math, computing, and biology, And biology, and I would say that's a very context-dependent thing. That's not something we assume that everybody has. We have, especially in students, we have a very heterogeneous. They come from very different backgrounds. So the biology of it is sort of learned, what is called like on the job, basically. You learn the context as you're going through it, especially in research, but also in other things too. Right. So here's a quote from one of our alums, Elizabeth Chase. She graduated a couple of years ago. Now works in RAND Corporation, and she worked on a variety of projects, and that included COVID, mental health, cancer, and many things. And she says it's if you like math and wants to make a difference in public health, this is the place. So where do our students end up? I'll get to this in a bit, but we have our department is 75 years old. Actually, we'll be celebrating our 75th year anniversary sometime this year or next year. So some things are being planned, and so we have a rich history, both in the field, in the university, but also beyond. And our students have gone to multiple different places, across industry, academia, government, and many other sectors, including tech. And you can see some of a smattering of those, and they are involved in many different aspects. Of course, health and diseases, in the pharma area, developing new drugs, how they work, and also, in prediction, like in terms of how long, particular illness and those sort of things. Right. So as I mentioned, now we are here in Rackham, but some of you were there yesterday in the building. That's our School of Public Health building. So it's got two buildings, which is connected by this bridge. And as I said, we are probably one of the oldest departments. I could wager one of the oldest departments, biostat departments in the country, if not the world. Of turning data into public health action, and that's an important aspect too. And that's, so just to give you a little bit context, the School of Public Health has 6 departments. We are one of the 6 departments, and there are many other departments that cover many different areas: epidemiology, environmental, nutrition, health behavior, and health equity. And I'm missing one more, but health policy and management, that's the other one. So there are a lot of interconnections between the departments as well, both research-wise and some course-wise too. Right. So I'll just quickly tell you about the sort of the critical core strengths of the department. As I said, we are a big department too. We're the oldest, but probably one of the biggest departments, biostat departments in the country. So, and that's one of the things as a chair that I get to see. The varied areas, but the core strength we have, and covers, in my opinion, pretty much every area you can think of. And I went to a big department myself when I was a student, and having access to faculty who work in very different areas brings a lot of there's always some questions that arise that you have someone there. So these are some of the areas, big data, causal inference, data integration, genetics, environmental. But the department, the emphasis of the work is, not only just doing the research in the biostatistical sort of silo, but also, how it can feed into the discovery, impact, innovation, policy, in advancing science knowledge, and as well as, diversity. And that all, sort of loops together, into our mission. So there's a lot of numbers here, but I'll hit upon a few things about our department. As I mentioned, we we are a big department. We have 45 primary faculty, close to 293-ish students, very productive with our, let me see if I can, let me see if my mouse works here. Yeah. A lot of publications, a very robust grants and research expenditures. That grants the faculty. We're very productive faculty. Distinguished faculty with many awards. And they are fellows of many major societies and organizations, including the National Academy of Medicine. And you'll hear a little bit more germanely here. We have 5 research centers in the department, and also 2 training grants, and you'll hear a little bit about it. And then, we teach a variety, as I said, a very wide spectrum of courses, and those are very well received. So as I said, we have a lot of students. We get them from everywhere pretty much now. As you can see, a lot of students come from Asia, India, of course US and North America, and some from South America, and we have students from Africa as well. So a lot of diversity in the department in terms of the number of students and the perspectives they bring, and how that feeds into the culture of the department as well, and you'll see some of that too. So as I said, we have actually 46 or 47 core faculty now in the department, and many joint faculty who actually are in other departments but work with our faculty, but also some students as well. I sort of hit upon this, but as I said, I'm just showing you a smattering of the research areas in the department, but it covers many areas, and that's been one of the strengths of the department. And that sort of, especially from a student's perspective, that what that percolates into is not just in the courses but also in the research that the students do in the department. So these are some of the campus linkages we have here. Of course, being a 75-year-old department, we have a very strong footprint across the university, and here are some of our partners. That's some of the departments within the school, but also across the campus. The Cancer Center, the Institute of Health Policy and Innovation, ISR, MIDAS. There's a lot of core groups of institutes, centers, and departments and other schools. So the university is sort of broken down into schools, and there are centers and other areas. So we heavily engage both within the campus, but also outside, especially industry, community, as well as professional societies, that cross-fertilize, many activities in the department, right? And rankings, one can see rankings in different ways, but there's somewhat useful metrics. So we are number 4 in the country. We move up and down a little bit, but we always been in that top. And as a university, we get a lot of grants, and this was something that I didn't know before. But we are number 3 in NIH funding, and 5 in NSF funding, and I'll hit upon that, and that's under a little bit of pressure right now, but we are navigating and calibrating the uncertainty there. From a student perspective, Ann Arbor is a highly ranked city. It's one of the most livable cities. I personally attest to that, and you'll sort of get that feeling when you talk to others, hopefully. So our guiding principles, this is the school's guiding principles, and of course we have to have some principles by which we do pretty much all our activities, and that's driven by compassion, driven by innovation, driven by inclusion, and pursuing impact, and in every which way we can. And of course, students are a critical part of that. Let me tell you that. So as a student, I'll get a little bit into the student student life and activities that's here. You'll hear much more about it, but we have a lot of student support here. I've been in 3-4 academic departments so far in my academic journey, and this is the most student-centric department I have been part of. No, and students know we give a very high priority to the well-being and the success of our students. You know, so there's a lot of avenues available in terms of student services, academic advising. Each of you will be having an academic advisors. The department has its own internal computing support, so you'll have access to, you know, we have an R programmer as well as a IT person, you know, Mike and Jacob, who provide, you know, who are accessible to all students. We have an inclusion wellness advocate in the department as well, you know, that we share with another department, and you know, and also the department has a lot of activities which is centered around DEI. Yes, you know, we're still pursuing it, right? As best as possible within. So we have a lot of student activities that happen now, and these are some of the, you know, favorite things to do outside of classroom on a social basis. You know, there's a new student retreat that we do it's called the Camp Storer. You know, and then we have a cornhole tournament, which happens with epidemiology. We've been winning 2 years in a row, and no pressure. We gotta get a hat trick. No, we have an annual ice skating. We had a movie night. We rent out a whole theater, the Michigan Theater, which was somewhere, and this year it was Interstellar. We have a Lunar New Year dumpling making party. That happened earlier this year in January, and of course you saw the pie day. And that photo needs to be updated, I guess, from yesterday. So again, life in Michigan in general, not just in the campus, but Ann Arbor as such, it's a great city on a number of different metrics, and it's if I had to classify it, I would say it's a very sneakily little classy town. It has pretty much everything for everybody here, whether you're artsy or a sports fan, any activity that resonates with you. And in the campus also, there's a lot. It's a great public university with a lot of activities happening, both at that covers, as I said, cultural, education, films, great music, which is right next door, the Hill Auditorium that gets a great lineup of musicians and other performers as well. And of course, sports here, football is big here, and that's the big house. It's an experience in itself. All right. So I'll address the, sort of the elephant in the room. I guess not, but some of you have, talked to me about this, and this is something that's percolating, especially over the last 2 months since the new federal administration came in, and there was a slate of executive orders and funding, and there's a lot happening. And when a lot happens, the first thing is, calibrating the level of uncertainty and getting prepared. And that's exactly where we are right now. So as a department, as a school, as a university, it's something that is rapidly evolving, and pretty much every day becomes a new day in reacting to something, So we are keeping a close tabs now. There is an optimist in me, and I'll speak to myself, that this all will settle somewhere. Where is that somewhere? I don't know as yet, But I'm hopeful that, when there's so much noise around, you sort of have to focus and almost the work that you do becomes the release. And that's what we are focusing right now, We have a legacy to keep of excellence and impact. We'll do that. There is work to be done to meet the public health needs. We'll do that. We have a commitment to our students, as I said. That's one of our major priorities, and probably number one priority at this point. And our PhD students, our MS students, and not only when they're here, but as place them in the best possible manner, when they get out here and get into the workforce. So with that, I'll end. Thank you all, and hope you'll join us. This is a graduation picture. And I hope to see many of you here, in a couple of years or down the line, as your degree may be. And I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
They're saving up for later.
Yes.
My name is Minyao, and I am a common student, and as a student, the main question is how can I get a fund, the financial aid? Do you have any idea?
So, and I'm sure the admissions chairs and Nicole can speak more to this. So we have a system here that all our funding decisions are made centrally by the committee. So we keep a tab on that, and as we get funding channels, because right now it's a little bit of a fluid process right now, when we get the acceptances and we get how the funds flow. So we have a centralized system that, that we, and I would say hang in tight, and if you have information, we'll let you know.
Yeah, and I can speak more to that. And so, because all funding decisions are done centrally through the admissions committee, this is a question that we get a lot from master's students in particular. In your admission letter, there's a link to a funding library. I would encourage everybody to read through that link. There are a lot of different avenues where you can look for different funding resources. We have a few other resources listed in one of our presentations. I would say all full funding offers are matched through the centralized funding process. So any position in the department would be centrally matched. And all of our PhD students, they all go through the centralized process. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Master's students, again, I would encourage you to look at all the different resources. Apply for GSI positions. You all have strengths in some area. You have at least an undergrad degree in some area. I would encourage you to look for GSI positions in other departments. Oftentimes, departments will have openings closer to the start of fall. So it's worth it to put your hat in the ring, to apply for those positions, and then just sit tight and see if something happens. I'm not saying that it's a high probability, but it's worth trying. And like I said, we'll go over some other sites that you can explore. And then every year, because we do a centralized funding matching process, every year, if there are extra positions within the department after we've matched all of our students, we will consider second-year master's students who did well in the program. You don't have to apply for positions in the department. If we have extra funding, we will be looking for you. Okay? So, are there any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, one of the draws of biostats for me was that it was so interdisciplinary. You work with a bunch of different programs. How much initiative does a student have if they know they want to work with environmental health or mental health or psychology? Do they have a lot of initiative? Is it more assigned?
Do you want to repeat the question?
Okay, so the question, I'll paraphrase it if I understand it correctly, and correct me if I interpret that wrongly. So it's, if there are specific areas, and you mentioned mental health, environmental psychology, right? And then how do students get engaged with that kind of research?
Yeah.
right? Is that a conduit? Is that
Yeah.
did I get that right? Yeah. So, so we have, like our faculty, as I said, like our linkages, forks out into many areas of the campus. So we have faculty who work, in the areas that you mentioned. And I can speak to psychiatry. We have Sebastian here, who had a joint appointment with psychiatry, works a lot in mental health here. And we have another faculty here who works with different aspects of environmental health, And, so there are joint sort of, possibly events that happen that the students can partake in. That could be a seminar or a workshop that happens. But just talking to the faculty and getting a conduit to us, there's a lot that happens in the university, in terms of the events and everything, and especially within the school, but also outside the school, and getting sort of keeping a tab on those events and participating in that, and what opportunity arises, not just from a learning perspective, but maybe exploring future sort of research as well in that direction. I'd say, I would say, we are very, a lot of our faculty works with the medical school here, and we have a very big medical school that covers a lot of biomedical areas, that includes mental health, psychology, psychiatry, Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
All
perfect.
right. Any other? So it takes the human mind 7 seconds to compute a question. No. If not, we'll all hang around here. Please feel free to reach out to me or any of my colleagues, if you have any questions, and hope you all have a wonderful admitted students weekend and an experience. And thank you all again.